I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. It's Mad Libs time again on the pod.
Woo!
Natasha, producer Zach, I learned my lesson the first time we did this. It was so damn long the first time. So I created a much shorter Mad Libs for us to play. I'm not going to tell you what the topic is until after we're done picking the words. You all good with this?
Oh yeah, I'm great with it.
I'm excited. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. Natasha, you're going to go first.
Okay.
Give me a name.
Sally.
Sally.
First thing that popped in my head, I don't know.
Great. Zach, give me another person's name.
Michael.
Ugh.
Oh.
Fine.
Twist. Yeah.
Natasha, give me the name of a government agency that's not NCUA.
It's not NCUA.
Yeah.
Agency, like Department of Health and Human Services? Is that what
Sure.
it is? You know.
Could you have picked a longer?
Really exists now, but anyway.
Services. Okay. Zach, I need a verb that ends in ing. A verb ending in ing.
Waking.
Okay. Natasha, I need a plural noun.
Margaritas.
Okay, great. Zach, I need an adjective.
Quick.
Great. Natasha, I just need a noun.
Elephant.
Great. Zach, you're getting the better end of this deal, I'm realizing. Zach, I need you to come up with a silly disaster.
Oh, like a real one or a hypothetical one?
A silly disaster, whatever you want it to be.
Explosion at the clown factory.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, wonderful. Natasha, sadly, I just need a noun.
Oh. How about a clown car? Going with the clown theme.
Got it. Okay, last one. Zach, I need a positive emotion.
Pride?
Sure. Okay, great. Let me retabulate this Mad Libs for you. Pull over my microphone here. Okay, this Mad Libs is called A Board of One, about the NCUA.
Oh.
Okay. After the sudden removal of Sally and Michael, Kyle Hauptman became the only board member of the Department of Health and Human Services Board. Now, Hauptman is responsible for waking every decision from setting margarita rates to regulating quick credit unions. Quote, "This is like running an elephant with one oar," said one industry leader. Critics warn that a one-person board could lead to an explosion at the clown factory. But supporters say Hauptman is handling it with clown car and pride. That's it. It was a little silly.
Just a little bit.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you were also removed from the board, Michael. That's a plot.
There are too many Michaels in this world. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So we will try another attempt at Mad Libs down the road. I need to perfect this dumb thing. But I thank you all for playing, and everybody welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we are chatting with Steve Reider, president of Bancography over in Birmingham, Alabama. Love that place. He is a credit union consultant and is going to be talking all about branch strategy, really detailed stuff that I had no idea about, especially about the pandemic. We're going to get into some really cool data points there. First up, we've got to take a break from this week. Check in with Natasha. Hey, Ed, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. How is summer so far?
It's all right. I've been in California and in Oregon. I'm actually up in Oregon now.
Right.
Visiting parents here through the end of the week. So yeah, it's going okay. It hasn't gotten too hot yet. We've had it's actually cool now, cloudy, and which I prefer, to be honest. Which sounds bad, but I just have grown to hate the heat. So but yeah, so far so good.
Very good. Which, speaking of all of that, we should maybe tease out that we are working on a very special summer episode.
We sure are. Yeah. So Halloween episode was such a big hit. We had to have a little brainstorming session and decide what else could we do? What could we play off of that would be fun? And we are going to be recording part of it actually in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And we're shooting, I think, for a July release. And we're going to be talking about a number of summer-related topics, including travel. Lots of travel stuff.
I have a bunch of ideas for the other things we're going to talk about, so I'm really looking forward to that. So stay tuned for that very special summer episode coming out. But before that, Natasha, what have you been watching?
So I watched the movie that was, I believe it was the Best Picture this year, Anora.
Oh,
I finally sat down and watched it. It's on Hulu. So I was visiting my parents right now. I actually watched it with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of funny that was a pick from my mom because she had heard about the kind of the overall plot where it involves like Russian oligarchs and trying to break up a marriage between this girl and then the son of an oligarch. But like the first half of the movie was almost like a borderline porn. Well, because it involves a prostitute,
Okay.
And so it was a funny, I mean, it's fine. It was, my mom and I are close enough where it's not like super awkward, but yeah, it was just like, oh, why do I have to keep watching this? I don't want to keep watching this. Like, and one comment she made, which is like, I'm sure this actress must have really proud parents of having to watch her do this. Oh my God. I'm like, I know. Well,
come on.
You have to get your start somewhere, right? I don't know.
Sure, but a wonderful performance. Mikey Madsen. But I got to say, we should poll our audience. Like, what were the most embarrassing movies you watched with your parents growing up?
That is, that would be a funny.
Because it's a thing. We all had to, oh God, this is
what were the funniest comments that came out of your parents' mouths when they were sitting there appalled?
Oh God. Something. Knowing my family, absolutely nothing was said. They didn't talk about anything. That's funny. So, Anora, good?
It was a really unique movie. Like, I'd never seen anything like it or heard of anything like it.
Yeah.
It was long, but it had a lot of interesting, I think the whole plot was just really interesting. It just had never to come up with that. And then, I enjoyed all the way up. Yeah, I watched it all the way to the end. It had a lot of kind of ups and downs. Sometimes it was funny. Sometimes it was like depressing. Sometimes it was like intense, dramatic. Anyway, I enjoyed it.
Good.
And the ending was interesting too. It was one of those where I had to look up like, well, what was that supposed to mean? Like what happened to her? It was kind of ambiguous. So, but I would recommend it. I think it was worth a watch.
Great.
Make sure there aren't any parents or children in the room while you're watching.
That's really funny. We're middle-aged and still embarrassed around our parents. That's really funny.
Anyway, what about you?
I watched an older movie by Akira Kurosawa, director. When was this made? 1963. It's called High and Low. Wonderful film.
Oh.
It's about a wealthy man who owns this shoe company, and a child is kidnapped, but they've kidnapped the wrong kid. They thought it was his kid, but it was another guy's kid. It was his limo driver's kid. And it just kind of unfolds from there. It was wonderful. It was a little silly, but also not. It was pretty dramatic in parts, and it's shot kind of like a play, but it's called High and Low. But the thing is, Spike Lee, he kind of remade it in his way. It premiered at Cannes Film Festival with Denzel Washington. I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't come out everywhere, but it was a really fun watch. High and Low, just a wonderful old Japanese film by Akira Kurosawa. Highly recommend.
I think our listeners now know that you're the one with the eclectic taste in movies.
Hey, I watch garbage.
So much more than I do about movies, but I'm sure, let me ask you, I know you play trivia sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming like whenever there's a movie question, you probably always know the answer.
Oh my God. No, I wouldn't say that.
No?
It really depends. I mean, sometimes I'll get it. But I listen to a lot of movie podcasts too, know? So I just enjoy knowing the background of a lot of films. And
that's
how they
the
got
thing.
made.
Yeah, you know all of the facts and the story behind like the production, not just the movie itself. Like
Blank Check is one of my favorite movie podcasts called Blank Check.
Wasn't that a movie?
Probably.
I don't think I actually watched the movie, but I remember it was from childhood, and I remember the preview, the trailer was with whoever the person was, the voice, like, and then this happened. Oh, but then there was a twist. Yes.
I was going to say, I'm looking it up on Letterboxd,
It was about a kid that was given, like, a blank check, and then he got
Yeah.
to cash it for all this money, and he went and, like, bought all this stuff. Is that what which doesn't even make sense how you could get away with that, but blank check. I just remember
Yeah, that's it.
it
He's
was
an
so
11-year-old
okay.
kid who got a bunch of money. Yeah,
Okay.
1994.
That makes sense from
All right.
yeah, when I'm thinking about when it happened. So, anyway, we'll have to watch that,
Have
maybe.
to.
Yeah, look it up.
Let's.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the interview. Great interview with Steve. That guy is like has so much knowledge about branches, and it was just so
A
interesting talking
ton.
about and I don't know, I personally love that topic. I don't know what it is about it, but for me, it's like something that I find fascinating, and there's so many facets of it from the
Yeah.
design of the branch and from the technology aspect and from the how it fits consumer behavior and how it's changed over time.
Mhm.
And there's so many things to cover with it, so he really does a good job of going into that. We didn't have time to talk to him about,
Well,
everything.
that's what I was gonna point out. We got so far into the interview, and I was like, "Wait, we gotta stop, or
I
or this
know.
is gonna go
Right,
for 2 hours."
right.
So, we're gonna have him back.
We are. So, a few things that stood out to me about the interview. He talks about his journey from working specifically in branch strategy in banks,
Mhm.
all the way up to then founding his current company, Bancography, which works with both credit unions and banks on their branch network strategies. But he,
Mhm.
in fact, works with more credit unions than banks. So this is a great episode for our listeners. He's more of a credit union guy now in this point in his career. He gives also a really great synopsis of what happened during the pandemic and how that
Mhm.
affected bank and credit union branches and their approach to it. He really seems to have researched this well and knows
Oh,
his
yeah.
stuff. So stay tuned for that. Also, of course, we had to get to some fun topics. And while discussing some fun things about his background and childhood, he shares some very strong opinions about the Phillies,
Yep.
despite being from Philadelphia. So you'll want to stay tuned for that.
Please.
Yeah, we have all that coming up next. Joining us in the virtual studio today is Steve Reider. He is the president of Bancography out in Birmingham, Alabama. Hey, Steve, welcome to Shared Accounts.
Good afternoon. Hi, nice to be with you.
Great
Yeah,
to have you,
nice to have
Steve.
you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Steve, it's great to meet you. This is our first time chatting. I know we've heard of
Mhm.
Bancography a little bit, but we don't know too much about it. So, just starting off here, was wondering if you could just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us just a little bit about your career history and how long you've been with Bancography and kind of how you ended up getting into your current position at
Great.
Bancography.
Yeah, happy to. And again, pleased for the chance to join with you this afternoon. I am a
Absolutely.
career banker, 30
Okay.
years plus now, and started at a bank here in Birmingham in a variety of different positions, but ultimately ended up in the
Mhm.
group that evaluated where the bank opened and closed branches.
Right.
And that may seem kind of narrow definition for a department, but understand
Oh,
when a
yeah.
bank's branch count numbers in the hundreds,
Right.
suddenly you need a lot of people to look those over. And so yeah, we had a department
Mhm.
of 5 or 6 folks that I ended up managing. But there are lots of smaller institutions that don't have that luxury. And so sometime in my
Mhm.
early 30s, if I recall, got the entrepreneurial bug and thought, we have the luxury of all these research tools here and all these people. Wouldn't it be neat, though, if you could bring the same set of tools, the same analytic sophistication to smaller financial institutions as far as their branching decisions? And so, with one of my colleagues from the bank, Kimberly Clay, we launched Bancography around that premise. And today, Bancography
Mhm.
provides branch planning services through both consulting and
Mhm.
software tools to
Whoa.
credit unions and banks of all sizes across the United States and
Yeah.
Canada. We are now in our 24th year with Bancography.
Wow. Oh, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating area, just the whole branch network strategy and looking at all that. And there's so many facets to it, just with the brick and mortar area there. Now, just to clarify, because obviously we have a credit union audience here,
Sure.
CU Times. So you work with, you said both banks and credit unions, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess what percentage of your business is with credit unions, and to what extent do you focus on the credit union side at Bancography?
Yeah, interestingly, at present, more than half of our client count
Okay.
in any given year
Mhm. Yeah.
come from the credit union side of the industry. The advent of the community charter and expanded fields of membership credit unions remain quite interested in branch expansion, and probably more so than on the bank side. I would tell you that whereas much of our work on the bank side is on optimization of the current branch footprint,
Yeah.
how can we get a little bit more out of the branches we have, and maybe even where does the institution need to contract its footprint? Most of our work on the credit union side of the industry is very expansion focused. How can we grow to reach more members within our geographic field of membership?
And that totally tracks from the data we've been watching over the years, banks pulling back, credit unions pushing forward in this area. Now, we're going to be talking about credit union branch strategy today, but I want to know, how does Bancography help credit unions with their branch network strategies?
So first off, we have two different flavors of operation, if you will. We have a software tool called Bancography Plan, which is kind of branch planning in a box. It's a do-it-yourself toolkit that allows a user to retrieve demographic information, competitive information, even pro forma financial projections, as well as maps of competitors in their own member base for any site that they would designate. And this lives on the desktop of the user at the individual credit union.
Okay.
So again, it's kind of entirely do-it-yourself. And then we have a consulting practices side as well, more traditional advisory services, and that ranges anywhere from a credit union calling us and saying, I've got a proposed site at the corner of 20th and Walnut, and we would propose what the trade area is likely to be and examine the demographic and competitive information and forecast financial implications. But from that simple request on up to much more complex, as in, we just added the Cincinnati, Ohio metropolitan area to our field of membership. How many branches do we need there, and where should they be? Or we just finished a project for a credit union with nearly 100 branches.
Whoa.
That was examine our entire footprint, all 100 branches. How are they performing relative to industry benchmarks, relative to fair share market opportunity? Are there any that we would consider closing, relocating, or otherwise getting more out of? And layering on top of that, also within our current footprint, where are the best opportunities to expand? But that noted, as broad as that is, we've also done a project. One of my favorite projects was for a credit union with 6 employees looking for its first ever location outside of its legacy SEG sponsor institution. And that was just kind of emotionally gratifying.
Oh, absolutely. So this is really, you're doing some incredible market research then with this particular tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very in-depth, again, competitive, demographic, and ultimately financial demand. I often say that you can ride around and look at the property and look at the potential site, and you can certainly even augment that with demographics and competition. But unless you drive to a full pro forma balance sheet and income statement, it's really all just vibes.
Yeah.
And with the average price of cost of a new freestanding branch, $2.9 million, vibes isn't good enough.
No. Thanks for kind of laying that out, because honestly, I didn't have the proper visualization of the tool. So thank you for that, because now I'm excited about it, because I want that in my life personally.
The tool is pretty cool, and I just hit the high point there as far as information about prospective branches. You can also evaluate merger opportunities and the financial impact of our credit union merged with another credit union, or even absorbed a bank. What are the likely implications given various expense reduction scenarios to our efficiency ratio, to our return on assets, and to our net income? There's the ability to plot our branches versus another institution's branches versus a third institution's branches to visualize how franchises fit together. You can plot your own members and even load up a file of members to say, hey, if I close this branch, given where my next nearest branches are, what proportion am I likely to retain? What proportion are likely to move on? There's competitive one-click deposit share reports for any market in the country. Tremendous amount of utility in that desktop tool.
That's incredible.
Very interesting, yeah, and quite a range there of the types of institutions you can help and just the level they're at, like you said, from a 6-employee operation to like a massive 100 branches. So yeah, it's really interesting. So I wanted to talk a little bit more generally, though, about just the purpose of the branch and how the branch has evolved over the years. And I think this is really interesting when you think about, the branch, I guess, whether it's a credit union or a bank, used to be the teller wall, the line that snakes around, and then you're going to deposit your paycheck for the week. Now that's not it. It's more of a go in and you feel like you're in some kind of a lounge, and it's more of in-depth consultative banking and for more complex transactions. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, just having been in this area for many years, it sounds like. What have you seen as far as like just the change over time for like what the purpose of the branch is?
Yeah, and by the way, forgive me, I didn't ask this at the outset, but where are you located?
I personally I'm on the West Coast, so I'm out of Southern California.
Okay.
And we're all remote, so Michael's out
Yeah, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin is a great credit union town.
I've heard. Yes.
Yeah, you've got a couple of large credit unions based there for sure. And the reason why I asked that is that particularly in the larger urban markets, and Natasha, you mentioned Southern California. I don't know if you're in Los Angeles proper, but...
No, I'm in a rural area about an hour from Los Angeles.
So yeah, if you were to go into downtown Los Angeles, or Michael, maybe not in Madison, but if you were to go to downtown Milwaukee, you'd find these magnificent old banking halls.
Yep.
Where, no exaggeration, there would have been more than 20 individual teller stations.
Yeah.
Oof. Wow.
And that's just all for the queuing space as consumers would line up to deposit their paychecks each week and to withdraw funds, and these predate the ATM even, let alone predating today's electronic banking tools. So that space was needed. And to the point of Natasha's question, yeah, there was a time when a predominant role of the branch was transaction processing.
Okay.
Right.
It's never been the primary objective of the branch, though. Think about it. Transactions cost us money, sales earn us money. So the less of the former we can do and the more of the latter we can do, the better. And so we've seen this decline given the rise of electronic channels. And by the way, we think of electronic channels from a consumer-facing viewpoint, right? So if you asked a banker to name electronic channels, they're going to say the call center, online, mobile, ATM. But possibly the biggest electronic channel in terms of removing traffic from the branches is ACH, enabling direct deposit.
Yeah.
Of course,
right? Because so many of us used to receive a paper paycheck that we would have to bring to the bank or the credit union branch in order to monetize. And today, the vast majority of payroll disbursements and almost all governmental disbursements, right, Social Security checks and such, occur through direct deposit.
Yeah.
So transaction processing, right, it was never anything we made money on as an industry, but it was a burden we had to bear for the benefit of our members.
Of course.
They needed a way to get their funds into our respective accounts.
Yeah.
But with the rise of these various electronic channels, in-branch paying and receiving transactions have declined precipitously.
Right,
over the past 5 years, average transaction counts per branch are down about 35% in the industry overall. Some of our clients report declines of as much as 50% from 5 years prior.
Sure.
And so, to the point of Natasha's question, that's allowed us to shrink the footprint in the industry dramatically.
Okay.
Right? Whereas we used to need 6,000 square feet in those 20-some teller windows for everybody to queue up. Well, now we're seeing our members much more episodically, really just for the new account opening needs.
Yeah.
So we can work in less square footage. That noted, because those are literally less transactional interactions, right? They're not about transactions. They're about advisory services. We want that to be a more comfortable environment. And thus some of the appointments that you alluded to in your question, right? We want our members to feel not just comfortable, but also a sense of trust and professional expertise.
Right.
It puts the banker on the same level of professional esteem as, say, your CPA or your attorney. Right? This is a place where you're coming in to have serious conversations about one of the most serious things in our lives, which is our financial well-being.
Can we, you were just mentioning the drop in transaction, anywhere from 30, 50%, things like that. How much did the pandemic play into that?
Not as much as you might think. Obviously, during the pandemic years, we saw a more precipitous decline in transactions. But most of our clients are now reporting that they're somewhere between 80 and 90% of pre-pandemic volumes, which is about what the trend line would have predicted anyway if we had followed the same level of decay in transactions that we'd experienced in the 5 years prior to the pandemic. So we think the pandemic-driven changes have largely filtered out of the system.
Okay.
We're simply still seeing declines because consumers are continuing to prefer electronic channels for their basic transaction needs.
You know what? I got to tell you, Steve, you are raising a bunch of questions of other episodes we need to do.
Yeah.
You just ramped up the whole pandemic in such a beautiful way that I actually wrapped my head around it. So thank you, because I get it. And it's not as dramatically awful, as I was feeling, during the time and then still coming out of it in these years now. So that's wonderful. Are you surprised by the number of physical branches that have remained open and are even thriving now?
Not at all.
Okay.
And look, there's a kind of stock presentation that I give called The Role of the Branch in the Age of Automated Banking.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I delivered it just a few weeks ago at a credit union forum in Florida, more targeted towards, there's probably 85% board of directors members versus credit union executives there. But
okay,
obviously it's one of those presentations you tailor a bit to the audience. But I usually begin it with this litany of articles from the early 2000s to early 2010s of the branch is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In 5 years, there will be no more branches. By 2025, there will be no more branches.
I know.
And then follow it up with this litany of counter articles that have emerged in the past couple of years saying, hey, wait a minute, the branch forgot to die.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it does not surprise me one bit.
Okay.
And I would also tell you that I think we're seeing that in retail just across the spectrum.
Okay.
Sure.
You mentioned that kind of summed up the pandemic, but I would tell you that, look, last year, or maybe even the year before last, TSA checkpoint counts hit all-time highs.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Right? So airline travel revived to pre-pandemic levels. If you look at credit card debt levels or automobile purchases, they all bounced back. So I think a lot of that normalized through the economy. The one thing that is not normalized is if you chart total deposits in the U.S. banking system, banks and credit unions combined,
mm-hmm.
if you charted that from like 2010 after the financial crisis to 2020, you'd get this metronomic straight line. And then, of course, it spiked upward during the pandemic, right? We were all receiving, our institutions were, right, our business clients were getting employee retention tax credits and paycheck protection program grants. A lot of credit unions were very big participants in that. Consumers were receiving stimulus payments. Outflows were less because we weren't getting on airplanes and such. And so deposits swelled above the trend line. But if you were to look at that trend line today, you would find that we've got about $17 trillion in deposits in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 17.9 trillion, I think.
Right.
And if you just followed the trend line, extrapolated it to where we were today, if COVID had never intervened,
right,
we'd only be at like 16.2 trillion. So we're still way above trend in terms of deposits in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that means it's going to be a really arduous another year or so going forward
right,
for branch deposit acquisition.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So I think our credit union execs face a real challenge in that area.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thanks for summarizing all that. And again, yeah, just kind of explaining how the pandemic impacted and then how everything kind of revived itself and came full circle. We found that really interesting to watch as well from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Ask, what would you say now, just as in your role and your company there as a consultant talking with different credit unions, what are some top things that credit unions like most commonly might get wrong, or maybe just not on purpose, but or overlook the most from your perspective during the process of specifically looking for a new branch location?
Yeah. So first off, there's certainly, I think, a number of institutions that are overlooking the most fundamental characteristic there, which is the need for branches.
Okay.
And there was an article in Fortune just a couple of months ago in Fortune magazine about Nike and how they forsook retail in favor of online during the pandemic.
Right.
And they took a severe hit because they never reestablished that retail channel.
Okay.
And so actually pulled up a quote here that I often cite and from this article, and says, company's fatal error was believing the pandemic had changed consumer behavior forever, that brick and mortar was dead. Instead, it turned out people like going to stores, checking out new styles, trying on the sneakers before they bought them. When they walked through the Foot Locker or Dick's or DSW, the shelves that used to be filled with Nikes now held new brands.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the first thing is you have to be there. There's something that the marketers call the evoked set, and that means when a need arises, what's evoked in my mind, right? What do I think of? And so my car, I see the little needle on E. what service stations in my neighborhood pop up and come to mind? And if you're not in that evoked set, by definition, you can't gain the business. So I think that's the first thing that some might overlook is, again, this belief, like Nike, that the pandemic transformed behavior forever. And so they thought we don't really need to be on the shelves, or in the case of banking, in your local neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. Not true. Yeah.
Beyond that, though, suppose we say, yep, we're good with branches. We know we need branches. I think it's absolutely paramount to consider the role of anchor stores. Nobody goes to the branch to go to the branch. They go to the branch on the way to going somewhere else. So you've got to be near those somewhere else's, right? We want to bask in the retail gravity, if you will, of the Target, of the, you mentioned you're in California, so the Safeway store, right? Or in Wisconsin, the Harris Teeter. Wait, I'm sorry, that's a Southeast brand.
It's in the Southeast.
Okay. Yeah, the Jewel Osco.
There you go, sure.
To give you a Midwestern example there. Yeah. The reason I think why I put Harris Teeter into Wisconsin was because of Harris Bank.
Oh, sure. Harris Teeter's great, though. Been there.
Yeah. But yeah, the point being that these large anchor retailers bring traffic that brings us the awareness.
That's true.
And so that to me is quite important. Physical prominence of the building is important, right? I mean, your branch physically doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. It's just 4 walls and a roof. But think about if you move to a new city, first night, what are you going to do for dinner? You're hungry. Well, cook dinner. Wait a minute, I have nothing in my pantry. I just moved here. Where's the grocery store? I don't know. And, I'll go out to dinner. And chances are, sometimes you do that with online search, but often you become aware of things just by travel through your local neighborhood community.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it needs to be a 10,000 square foot behemoth. It just means it needs to be thoughtfully designed with strong attention to merchandising and signage and branding to capture the consumer's attention.
Now, before Natasha goes on to the next question, I do want to point out, I just was thinking about your anchor locations. And in Wisconsin, I think a better true analogy, truism would be the anchor would be a brewery. It would be next to a credit union. And I'm not joking. It's a real thing.
Yeah, some credit unions have gotten creative, and I know there's a couple credit unions, they serve the beer industry, or they're and they've actually designed a branch to look like a brewery. So
I'll give a shout out to one of our favorite clients, our friends at On Tap Credit
Union. On Tap?
That's what I'm thinking of,
They're fantastic.
Tracy Wilcox and her crew in Golden, Colorado, and of course they were the legacy credit union of Coors Brewing. And
I've been to that branch.
Oh, good, excellent.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. So, but yes, your Wisconsin point is well noted, and it does underscore, it doesn't need to be a grocery. It needs to be whatever place is kind of a social focal point that's drawing humans to the area.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's not the destination, the branch, but it's usually like one stop on your errand outing. But then in the process of it, you need to see it. It needs to be there. It needs to be visible. It needs to be
really good points.
In some way, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. We could have a whole separate conversation just about branch design. That's what I love. That's
what I would really want. I already wrote that down in my notes. Yeah.
Yeah, or what business it pairs with, But yeah, we'll get to that later. Wanted to ask Steve also, just in terms of staffing the branch, that obviously must have changed as well. I mean, before it had all these tellers, in the line. Now it's more of this kind of universal employee concept, or they can do multiple things. What would you say are some of just the best practices? I don't know if you deal in this area specifically, just you're more about the location, but just as far as staffing it, what would you say you've noticed as far as trends around that? And do you have any best practices for optimally staffing a branch?
You just summarized the most important development of the past 10 years or so in our industry, which is the migration from a teller MSR divide to the universal banker who can fulfill all transactions and all requests. And of course, that emanates from the decline in transactions, right? 20 years ago, it made sense to have a dedicated teller because there was enough transaction demand in the branch to where a teller would be engaged with a member, say 80% of the time. Now, because less people are walking in just for the basic cash a check, withdraw funds, a full-time teller might only have a member in front of them, say 40% of the time. Right. And granted, 10% of their time maybe is for processing stuff, but that leaves 50% of the time idle, right? Paying for no activity. Yeah. So if we can leverage that up to where the teller can also fulfill new account functions, obviously that becomes much more efficient. Now, the exception is if you are in one of those few really, really, really busy branches say, a credit union that serves a military installation or a university, right, with this big employment base. And if your tellers are still engaged, member facing 80% of the time, no reason to use universal agents. All you're doing is raising the cost of the teller function. Now, that noted, you can't just cross-train somebody and enable universal agent. For that to really be effective, we need to use teller cash recyclers to enable an open floor plan, because think of that old banking hall that we discussed. There, if a teller wasn't engaged with a member in a transaction, saw a member walk in the door, "Hi, I want to talk to you about a new account," they'd have to close their teller drawer under dual control, walk all the way around that long counter, punch out the code through the door just to meet the member. I mean, the member's gotten bored and gone home by then.
Yeah.
And so you need the technology and the design to enable that. The TCR, teller cash recycler, is basically think of it as a glorified ATM that only our employee has the code to. And just like the ATM in the parking lot, it's totally secure, which means I don't need to close a drawer. I don't need to count out cash, anything under dual control, right? I don't need to do any of that checks and balances. I can just walk away from it. And that also means I don't even need a little gate with a 5-digit code preventing anybody from getting into the teller line, right? I can use those. Some people call them dialogue banking stations or transaction pods, or a lot of different names for them. But you need the design and the technology to enable the behavior of the universal banker. The other major staffing change that we see is use of hub and spoke branching, where not every branch is going to offer every service with on-site personnel, but rather if we have a cluster of, say, 3 branches in close proximity, I might have one manager overseeing all 3 of those branches, leverage up the skills of my most effective salespeople. And same thing for my line of business specialties, my wealth, commercial, mortgage. Doesn't mean we don't offer mortgage at the spoke branch.
Sure.
But if somebody walks in and says, "Hi, I want a mortgage," our mortgage banker, she's not here at the moment. Let's check calendar. Oh, she can meet you here at 2 o'clock this afternoon or 10 o'clock tomorrow in your office. Done. So those are the 2 big universal bankers, hub and spoke, 2 biggest staffing changes we've observed and foresee going forward for the industry.
So, Steve, again, you're hitting, I'm writing a bunch of stuff down as you're talking, and we're running out of time. And I'm like, okay, I have 4 shows to bring you back on, because I really want to dig into a number of things you're saying, but I have like 11 questions left to ask you. But I want to move on to the second part, if you're fine with that, of the interview. And this is all about Steve. Are you ready for this?
Sure, but I promise you it's not as interesting as branches going into
Not interesting as branches? Okay.
But we want to get to know Steve.
So, okay, Steve, I know you're out in Birmingham, Alabama. Is that where you're from originally, or where is your hometown?
No, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so you kind of got the Southern accent, though. So have you been down there for a while, or?
Yeah, a long time. The majority of my professional career, for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
So were you a big Phillies kid, like growing up?
Can't stand the Phillies.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick rationale for that, and you can edit this out.
Please. Oh, it's fine.
And so are you a baseball fan?
Oh, yeah, baseball's a blast. I don't really root for one specific team, but baseball's fun, sure.
I'm going to walk you through why. So I loathe the Phillies because my dad loathed the Phillies as well. Now, he grew up in Philadelphia also. So a little trivia. How could someone who grew up in Philadelphia grow up hating the Phillies?
Mike Schmidt? You just really hated the guy?
That's before.
I don't know.
And besides, that would have been Steve Carlton or Larry Bowa.
Sure. There you go.
So think about Chicago. If you grew up in Chicago, how could you grow up in Chicago and not like the Cubs?
Well, unless you lived on the south side.
Ding, 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 ding. Long before there were the Sacramento A's of this summer and the Las Vegas A's of next summer, or 3 summers down the road, they were the Kansas City A's. And before they were the Kansas City A's, they were the Philadelphia Athletics.
I forgot all about that.
My dad grew up an A's fan, and when the A's left town, he could never turn around and root for the Phillies.
Oh.
Right? They were the Cubs Sox. They were the Yankees Dodgers back when the Dodgers were in Brooklyn. And so anyhow, again, you can edit up. And so, yeah, he hated the Phillies, and so I inherited that. Love the other teams. Love our Eagles and Sixers and Flyers. But
So can I ask really quick, so you're not a fan of the Phillies, what about just the city of Philadelphia itself? What are your feelings about it now?
It's a magnificent place where it all started in this country, right? It's the founding of the nation, the oldest everything. It is a wonderful city for the arts. The Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Barnes Museum, some of the most magnificent collections in the country. It has great people with a bit of an edge to them. If you,
it's a nice way to
it was
put it.
epitomized this weekend in one of the No Kings marches where somebody was holding up a sign and it said, "Not paid to be here. Philly hates for free."
That's funny.
It's kind of an insular community in that way.
Yeah.
They love each other, but dislike everybody else. And
100%.
As Jason Kelce sang in the first Super Bowl parade, "No one likes us, we don't care." And I'll let you Google the rest of that because it's not
exactly. Okay. Thanks for setting the stage of who Steve is, where you come from.
I was just back there this week because I teach a class for the American Bankers Association at their graduate executive school at Penn. And
good.
Yeah, and we had a wonderful time, saw the family, and it was, we go back frequently. Okay, go on. Again, you're welcome.
No, it's a great city. I wish I was there more often, but it's been a while. Okay, quick question for you, Steve. If you had to pick between these 3 locations for a credit union to open a branch, which would it be? A cruise ship, a kid's summer camp, or an airport lounge?
I'm trying to think of summary locations.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to go for the kids' summer camp because at least we could get some goodwill equity as a learning exercise. Actually, in one of the classes I teach, I specifically deride PNC and their much heralded airport branches that they deployed in the 90s as just an absurdity. Now, obviously, there are credit unions that specialize in serving employees of airlines that have back of the house, right? Not in the food court kind of deal. But yeah, that whole, we're going to put a branch in the airport. We're going to get new accounts of people traveling through. Nobody wants to do that in the airport there.
No,
the most stressful part of anybody's life is flying and changing planes. And maybe it's a branding exercise. So yeah, I'm going to vote for the kids' camp.
I love it. That's a great answer. And I agree with you.
Lightning round. What you got next?
Yeah, next question. Continuing with the summer theme here, travel, is a topic we've been thinking about lately. Do you travel frequently for your job?
Less now than I did in our younger days, and less now because 20 years ago, if you wanted to see what a market looked like, you had to go there on the ground, right? And I remember one time working with an institution in Houston, and Kimberly and I put 1,200 miles on a rental car, walking around looking at branch sites. Granted, Houston's one of the most sprawling metros in America, without ever leaving the bounds of the Houston metro area, and none of it on interstate, all surface streets, because I believe you don't see how markets change unless you stay on surface streets. But today, you can zero in with the Bing Maps and the Google Maps, the online utilities, right? And you can see, hey, wow, that's a great location. There's this Whole Foods store on one side of the street and a Target on the other. Or, wow, that's on the opposite side of a divided highway. If you're traveling north, you can't get to that branch because there's this median barrier in between. You can do so much more of that online today. So I don't travel as much as I used to, but still certainly a fair amount.
A little bit. Yeah. Okay. So thinking back to, I guess, when you were in your heaviest travel time, what would you say were some of your top tips that you followed for staying organized while on the road, and also just, getting through it from a health perspective, because it can be so exhausting and it's easy to get sick when you travel. How did you kind of get through that?
Always have a backup plan from a travel standpoint.
Okay.
Because if you travel enough, you will have flights that are canceled, or you will have flights that are late and you end up missing. And so always know, what's that plan B where I can get to where I need to be, even if it's through a third city.
Great.
Even to the point of be sure to book changeovers in airports that have hotels attached. So if you're stuck on a layover, right, like Detroit has a wonderful hotel right attached part of its airport. You can walk right in. Philly has one. Tampa has one. Charlotte, North Carolina does not. You're late overnight in Charlotte. You got to get on a bus and go somewhere. Not nearly as easy. I'm a runner, and I find that running always helps acclimate to a new community, both visually and health-wise.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, around town. Yeah.
And I will laugh. In the early days, we tried to build the brand with a fair number of conferences, and we'd always have to beg off of the bankers saying, come out with us. And we realized, for you guys, this is your one trip out of the year. I understand you want to stay out till 2 in the morning. We do this every week. Right?
Yeah.
This week we're at another one.
Yeah.
We can't do this every week.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, 20 years old, maybe you can do it every week, but
sounds exhausting.
And the other travel tip I'd make, just from a standpoint of when we're traveling, it's always for meetings. Check the room the night before. I don't mean your hotel room, I mean your presentation room. Make sure you have the AV. Make sure you know where you're going in the morning. You do not want to be stressed on the cusp of that meeting or presentation.
Absolutely, you don't. I agree with that. Steve, going back to your childhood, what was the first album, CD, cassette you ever bought or remember listening to? What was the first one?
Oh, you are way too far back in the memory banks for that one.
Oh, okay.
I could not.
Or it doesn't have to be the first one, but yeah, maybe as a teen, like what first got into music, or
I could not begin to tell you. I'll offer an alternative collection now.
Sure.
I had a pretty serious collection of the angry women of the late 90s, early aughts.
Oh, like Alanis?
Alanis is a good one. Tori Amos is a good one. Ani DeFranco, Tracy Bonham.
Yeah, those are all great.
Yeah, exactly. So
I just re-listened to Jagged Little Pill the other day. Still a great album.
It still resonates. And while we're on that topic, a shout out, may she rest in peace, to Jill Sobiel, who just left us way too soon.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's a really good call. Thanks for bringing that up.
But yeah, that was my genre of choice in those formative
I love
years.
it. That's great.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, I think Jagged Little Pill, that was one of my first purchases, like in junior high those days. So yeah, love it. Okay, Steve, final question here today. We always end our podcast with this. What was the last movie you watched?
I saw this on your pre-submitted list of possible questions.
Yeah.
And you are going to be so disappointed, because we are not big movie people. I don't like movie theaters. They're cold, air-conditioned. The last movie we saw was the Muppet movie, and I think that's 2007, maybe?
Oh.
So I have not seen a movie in probably 15 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow. You've been busy.
Do you all, stream TV shows or anything like that?
Again, I'll go back to the aughts there. Haven't seen a movie in 15 years.
Uh-huh.
But damn, if they do a full-length Melrose Place or 90210 movie, I am there for it.
Oh, okay.
You know what? That is a really good idea.
That would get me. I love the 90210 revival series of a couple of years ago. And yes, any one of those, you bring me back for that, or of the USA Blue Sky dramas.
Oh, yeah, sure.
White Collar, Burn Notice. You give me a full-length feature Burn Notice movie or White Collar movie, or...
I got to say, Burn Notice, I loved that show.
Fantastic.
That was so good.
Yeah,
it's so trashy and dumb, but man, I loved it.
Yeah, give me a movie of any one of those and I would go to them. But yes, Burn Notice was absolutely tremendous. And in fact, there was even... I'll still quote Burn Notice on occasion. And there was one time we were working on this project, and it had just... Most of our projects are quite successful and enjoyable. And I don't know, this one had just circled back with lots of questions and follows, just gone on way too long. And I turned to Laura, our marketing director, who was also a big Burn Notice fan. And if you remember the scene where Michael gains his freedom from management, right, which was the guy from Cheers back in a much more serious role. And he's on the helicopter and he says, "I want you people out of my life." There you go, Michael. There's the door, and he jumps out of the helicopter.
Right.
But yeah, so that was even a Burn Notice.
Oh, that's so good. If you all don't know what the hell we're talking about, just look up Burn Notice. It's so good.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Yeah, I have not seen it. It sounds like a cool thing.
Good call, Steve.
Yeah, you and I have similar tastes there in culture and pop culture.
That's why we love asking these questions, to see what connections we have.
Agree. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, Steve, again, I mean, we could continue talking to you for hours, of course.
We're going to have you back. Yeah, definitely.
Have you back. Thank you for spurring some new ideas. I think especially the branch topic. I mean, there's just so much to explore, from technology to design to just the data analysis that goes into choosing branches and marketing. And anyway, unfortunately, we are out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up now. Steve Reider, president of Bancography, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Enjoyed the dialogue. Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for downloading today's show. Please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times in all of your normal podcast places. And please share the episodes with everyone you know, everyone you could think of, coworkers, relatives, friends, pets, just do it.
Ex-lovers. Just kidding. Feel free to rate us 5 stars only. But as always, we love our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thank you so much, Zach. Join us again next week, though, for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.